Hello everyone, I'm Yanis talking about the Jamstack Incubation Engineering update this week. Some good news at the start. One of the three MRs that make up the pipeline wizard has just been merged. It's another prerequisite MR, so it doesn't add any new features just yet, but it's an important preparation. Up next, there's this big MR that will then introduce the pipeline wizard as a component. I guess reviewing this one will take another couple of weeks since it's so big. The final one will then be an MR that uses the new wizard to onboard to GitLab pages, the first visible instance of the new wizard. That's the update on the wizard. Now for something new and shiny. Just last week I stumbled on Remix. It's yet another JavaScript framework, so that in itself probably isn't that noteworthy. But what I found interesting is that it's another attempt at a full stack framework. I'll probably don't do it a favor by the following summary, but I think this is what it boils down to. It is a React-based server-side generation framework. In that regard, very much like Next.js. But I'd say it's an evolution on Next.js. Next already utilizes the fact that it runs on a JS server for middleware. So it prefetches API responses and serves pre-rendered HTML to the client. Remix just goes a step further and incorporates the API logic into the same framework. So you'll do your DB queries right from the same codebase. Since Remix is built on React, it has a component structure built in, so it's able to marry components with their backend equivalents, which is something that usually happens in a lot of component frameworks anyway. But with Remix, there's much less boilerplate code to achieve that result. And that in turn allows Remix to provide a very complete hydration on the server side, resulting in faster load times. I know, this sounds a lot like the classic MVC approach, an approach that the whole Jamstack ecosystem tried to overcome with a clearer separation of concerns. So, did we just go full circle? Warning, what comes next is a personal opinion, use with caution, etc., etc. So, did we just go full circle? Well, yes, in a way. Remix is a framework that features a monolithic architecture. And I'd say it's a good thing. The innovation in the last couple of years has a lot been in the front-end space, while classic MVC frameworks just kind of sat there. And yet MVC monoliths still are a great solution if you have a rather simple CRUD application that isn't so complex that it needs two different frameworks for front and back end and a lot of code to have them work together. So if you want the monolith for that reason, you used to have to make a trade-off to the detriment of the front-end developer experience. You sometimes even ended up bringing React into a, say, Pug or Jade file. That always felt super hacky. And we're not even talking about performance. Now, having Remix approach that whole full stack issue from the front-end direction rather than the other way around, it's actually a huge leap. That said, Remix is a highly opinionated framework. It's purely React-based, and it taking off probably depends on whether it is able to build a stable plugin ecosystem. Now, what does that mean for me, the Jamstack Incubation Engineering at GitLab? I think the most important thing to note is that in the trend of getting more complex sites more performant, there may be a trend of having more frameworks depend on a JavaScript runtime, not less. My initial guess was that in order to get complex sites more performant, the trend is going solely towards static site generation frameworks with incremental builds like Astro. Remix is showing another attempt, although it's probably best with simple apps in terms of code complexity. It probably works very well with a high number of routes, a classic problem area of sites that are generated at build time. And this, as I said in an earlier video, is one of my identified areas of improvement here at GitLab. So I'll add another investigation branch where I try to scope our support for JS runtimes. In an ideal world, I'd love to build something where people can just deploy apps like this on a Cloudflare worker or on Fastly compute at edge. In that case, we simultaneously add support for SvelteKit or Next.js. So it's already a huge thing. This Remix investigation basically just made me think about the order of priority. I'll keep you posted on this issue. I think this may be a big one. Until then, I hope you enjoyed the update and see you next week.